Doors closing.
Oh no. Is that food?
Technically, I believe the label said Southwest Sunrise Melt, but that might have referred to the emotional state it causes.
It smells like regret on a biscuit.
That's the spicy sausage.
This is Harlem. This is a Blue Line train to downtown and O'Hare.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Blue Line, I come bearing truth and spreadsheets.
Oh no.
For far too long, you've been lied to by the breakfast industrial complex. Today, I will compare the Egg McMuffin to its natural enemy, the bacon croissant-wich. Let's begin with sodium. Exhibit A, McMuffin, 770 milligrams. Exhibit B, croissant-wich, 910 milligrams. You know what else has 910 milligrams of sodium? Disappointment.
Why does he have a laser pointer? This train doesn't even have a screen.
You have to respect the commitment.
And don't get me started on the burrito conspiracy. Do you even know what they put in those things? Well, neither do they.
This is Tales from the Blue Line by Auditory Anthology.
I think the breakfast czar has moved on to another car.
Honestly, I'd vote for him over the other options out there.
Speaking of unexplained phenomenon, I've got a story today that I swear I'm telling exactly as I heard it. One of the producers that I used to work with swore it actually happened to a field reporter down in Peoria.
Third-tier sources always make for the best stories.
The fluorescent lights of the WCHP Action News bullpen hummed with the quiet despair of 1,000 forgotten dreams, a sound Brenda Bright knew intimately. She chewed on the end of a cheap pen, her gaze fixed on a monitor displaying what promised to be the gripping exposé of the week. Elderly woman wins blue ribbon for petunias. Again. Brenda, a veteran local reporter whose cynicism had aged like a fine, bitter wine, felt her soul shriveling faster than a forgotten bagel in the break room toaster. "Brenda, get in here, stat!" Her editor, Phil, was bellowing from his glass-walled office, his voice cutting through the office din like a dull butter knife through a slightly too cold stick of butter. Brenda sighed, pushing herself away from the ergonomic nightmare she called a chair. What fresh hell awaits, she wondered, already anticipating another feature on the dangers of rogue squirrels or the heartwarming tale of a lost dog. She shuffled into Phil's office, her cameraman Gary already there, bouncing on the balls of his feet like a golden retriever anticipating a walk. Gary was a walking, talking conspiracy theory, a human magnet for the bizarre. If there was a blurry photo of a supposed cryptid, Gary had it. If there was a whisper of a ley line, Gary was tracing it on a map. He'd once tried to convince Brenda that the station's coffee machine was powered by alien technology. Brenda, for her part, was fairly certain it was powered by stale grounds and existential dread. "Brenda, Gary, sit. This is big. Bigger than Mrs. Henderson's prize-winning zucchini." Phil's eyes gleamed with the manic enthusiasm of a man who hadn't seen a decent ratings bump since the Great Pigeon Scare of '07. He slammed a printout onto his desk. "We just got a tip. Alleged alien abduction. Forest Park, cul-de-sac, and get this, a missing garden gnome." Brenda's eyes twitched. An alleged alien abduction. In Forest Park. The most exciting thing to happen in Forest Park usually involved a new flavor of artisanal cheese at the farmer's market. She glanced at Gary, whose eyes were now wide as saucers, a smile spreading across his face. He looked like a kid on Christmas morning, if Christmas morning involved little gray men and anal probes. "Phil," Brenda began, her voice a monotone of weary disbelief, "are we sure this isn't just a very late-night party gone wrong? Or maybe a particularly enthusiastic amateur rocket launch?" Phil waved his hand dismissively. "Brenda, the caller was hysterical. Said there were shimmering lights and a whooshing sound. And the gnome, Brenda, the gnome! This could be the biggest story of our lives!" Brenda pinched the bridge of her nose. Right, because our viewers are just clamoring for a story about an extraterrestrial garden accessory. Fine. Gary, grab the camera, let's go see what weirdness awaits us in the suburbs. Gary was already halfway out the door, practically skipping. You got it, Brenda! This is it! Proof! I knew it! The truth is out there! Brenda just sighed, grabbed her notepad, and followed him, muttering, The truth is, I need a stronger coffee. The drive to Forest Park was uneventful, unless you counted Gary's detailed explanation of how crop circles were actually landing pads for interdimensional squirrels. Brenda mostly tuned him out, mentally drafting her opening line for the segment. Tonight on Action News, we investigate a mystery that has gripped the hearts and minds of, well, apparently one hysterical caller. They pulled onto a quiet cul-de-sac, typically adorned with pristine lawns and suspiciously identical birdhouses. Today, however, it boasted a single, yellow police tape fluttering lazily between a mailbox and a particularly robust rose bush. A lone police officer, Officer Jenkins, leaned against his cruiser, scrolling on his phone with the air of a man whose biggest current concern was beating his high score on Candy Crush. "Officer," Brenda called out, approaching him with her practiced professional smile, Gary already filming the tape with the reverence usually reserved for a historical landmark. "Brenda Bright, WCHP Action News. We are here about the incident." Officer Jenkins looked up, startled, as if surprised to find humans in his otherwise peaceful domain. "Oh, right, the incident." He gestured vaguely toward a patch of lawn that looked less like a landing zone for a UFO and more like where someone had accidentally left a magnifying glass on a sunny day. A scorched circle, roughly 3 feet in diameter, marred the otherwise perfect grass. And just at the edge, a forlorn-looking garden gnome, conspicuously hatless. "Any leads, officer?" Gary asked, zooming in on the gnome's chipped ceramic face. Jenkins shrugged. "Not unless garden gnome hat theft is a federal offense. Mrs. Gable down there called it in. Swears up and down it was aliens. Her nephew gone missing too, but honestly, Kevin is always wandering off." He looked at Brenda. "You folks got anything better to do than chase gnomes?" Brenda ignored him. "Mrs. Gable, you said." Their first interviewee, Mrs. Gable, was a vision in a floral apron, surrounded by no fewer than 7 cats, all of whom regarded Brenda with suspicion. She offered them lukewarm lemonade before launching into her tale, her eyes wide with wonder. "Oh, it was magnificent, dearie," she chirped, clutching a fluffy Persian to her chest. "Right there, above my prize-winning petunias. Shimmering lights like 1,000 rainbows caught in a soap bubble. And a sound, a whooshing sound, like the wind through angels' wings." She paused, dabbing a tear. "And they were so polite, beings of pure energy. Lifted me gently, telepathically, mind you, about the cosmic oneness of all things. And they complimented my petunias, said they'd never seen such vibrant magenta on Kepler 186f. Gary was scribbling furiously, his face rapt, occasionally nodding profoundly. Brenda's pen hovered over her notepad, a tiny vein throbbing in her temple. Next up was Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Gable's next-door neighbor, who was hosing down his driveway with a fury that suggested a deep-seated resentment for dirt. He squinted at Brenda through wire-rimmed glasses. "Aliens, you say?" he scoffed, turning off the hose with a violent twist. "Nonsense! I saw some idiot with a drone. Big, noisy thing. Probably what caused the whoosh, if you ask me. And that bright light? Probably the sun glinting off its stupid rotors. Then there was a bang, all right. Sounded like some fool's muffler fell off. Probably that Chad kid's beat-up car again." He gestured to the scorched lawn. "More worried about that disrupting my HOA regulations. And the gnome hat? Probably blew off in the wind. Happens all the time with cheap garden ornaments." He shook his head, muttering about property values. Finally, they tracked down Chad, sprawled on his porch swing, wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky and clutching a very large, very empty coffee mug. The scent of stale beer and regret hung heavy in the air. "Lights? Yeah, maybe," Chad mumbled, blinking slowly.
Weird noises? Definitely. But it was pretty late. I just had some of Kevin's mystery punch at that frat party. Potent stuff. Could have been anything, man. I swear I saw little green men, but then I think I saw pink elephants too. Honestly, I'm more concerned about where my left shoe went. It's vital for my artistic integrity.
He then promptly burped. Brenda looked from Chad to Mr. Henderson to Mrs. Gable's smiling cat-surrounded face. This is going to be a fun segment, she thought, a grim smile playing on her lips. A very, very fun segment. All right, Gary, let's see what other compelling evidence we can unearth, Brenda said, her voice dripping with sarcasm as she surveyed the quiet cul-de-sac. Gary, meanwhile, was already circling the scorched patch of lawn, camera held aloft like a divining rod.
Brenda, look! Pure metallic sheen!
Gary practically yelped, triumphantly holding up a crumpled, silvery object. He held it close to the camera lens, the surface catching the dull afternoon light. Brenda squinted. Gary, that's a soda can.
A pristine soda can, he countered, undeterred. Untouched by earthly grime. Clearly dropped by an extraterrestrial hand before their hasty departure.
He then sniffed it.
Smells vaguely of root beer. Perhaps a recreational beverage?
Brenda sighed and pulled a latex glove from her bag, picking up the can with exaggerated care.
Or, Gary, it's just a discarded soda can someone dropped.
And given the sticky residue, I'd say it's more half-finished and forgotten than alien artifact of recreation. Just then Gary gasped.
And Brenda, the goo! The mysterious luminescent goo!
He pointed a trembling finger at a puddle near the curb, shimmering with a vaguely greenish hue. Brenda knelt, poking it with her pen. It stretched, viscous and slightly sweet-smelling. Gary, she stated flatly, that's melted lime sherbet. From a kid's dropped ice cream cone. Note the sprinkles. Gary looked genuinely deflated, but only for a moment.
But what about the energy readings, the residual cosmic radiation? He insisted,
pulling out a small handheld device that looked suspiciously like a toy Geiger counter. He held it over the scorched grass. It clicked rhythmically. Brenda leaned closer. Gary, is that the sound of the battery running low? Before Gary could respond, a beat-up lime-green van plastered with bumper stickers proclaiming "The truth is out there, and probably in here too," and "My other ride is a UFO," screeched to a halt at the end of the street. Out of it emerged a man Brenda instantly recognized from local talk radio call-ins. Dr. Arlo Fizzle, self-proclaimed ufologist and proprietor of the Forest Park Paranormal Research Institute and Hot Dog Stand. He wore a tinfoil hat, clearly handmade, adorned with what looked like pipe cleaners.
"Dr. Fizzle!" Gary exclaimed, forgetting the sherbet goo. "You're here! You predicted it!"
Dr. Fizzle strode forward, adjusting his tinfoil hat.
"Indeed, young man, the cosmic conjunctions were undeniable. The celestial alignment of Neptune and Mrs. Henderson's prize-winning zucchini a clear precursor to an abduction event. This phenomenon harkens back to a great Forest Park feline disappearance of 1987. Coincidence? I think not."
He gestured dramatically at the scorched lawn.
"This is a direct energy imprint, and the missing garden gnome, a navigational beacon, no doubt. They'll return for it, you mark my words."
Brenda's pen was flying across her notepad, her internal monologue a whirlwind of sarcastic brilliance. "Breaking news. Local nutjob confirms what everyone already suspected. He's still a nutjob." She managed to keep a straight face, however, asking, "And what about the missing individual, Kevin?" Dr. Fizzle leaned in conspiratorially.
"Kevin, you say, a perfect candidate. They often take the unsuspecting, the easily processed. Perhaps they needed a new cosmic ambassador, or maybe, just maybe, they mistook him for a particularly large sentient zucchini."
Brenda closed her eyes for a brief, blissful second, imagining a different career. Perhaps a lighthouse keeper, or a professional napper, anything that didn't involve interviewing people who genuinely believed garden gnomes were interstellar GPS devices. She glanced at Gary, who was now holding his toy Geiger counter up to Dr. Fizzle's tinfoil hat, his face alight with reverence. This was her life, This was action news, and somewhere a cat was probably stuck in a tree wondering why no one was coming to save it. Just as Brenda was contemplating whether a career as a professional napper offered better health benefits, Officer Jenkins, looking marginally less bored, strode towards them. "Good news, everyone! The missing abductee has been located," he announced, as if revealing a solution to a decades-old cold case. Gary immediately spun his camera. Dr. Fizzle adjusted his tinfoil hat with an almost reverent twitch, and Brenda merely raised an eyebrow. She'd put money on him being found at the local donut shop. And then, shuffling around the corner of Mrs. Gable's house, looking disheveled but very much terrestrial, was Kevin, Mrs. Gable's nephew, the alleged abductee. He wore a single grass-stained sock and squinted at the gathered crowd as if they were a particularly confusing mirage. "Kevin, you're back!" Mrs. Gable cried, rushing forward and enveloping him in a hug that seemed to involve several cats. Yeah, Aunt Carol," Kevin mumbled, trying to extricate himself. "What's with all the people and the police tape?" Brenda, sensing her opportunity, stepped forward, microphone extended. "Kevin, can you tell us what happened last night? Your aunt believes you were abducted." Kevin blinked. "Abducted? Oh, right. Nah, I was just helping Aunt Carol prune those roses in the dark, for fun. And I tripped over the garden hose." He pointed sheepishly at a coiled green serpent barely visible in the dim light. "Yeah, I really went down. Hit my head a bit, got disoriented. Thought I heard Aunt Carol calling me, but I must have wandered off into Mr. Henderson's shed by mistake. It was dark and quiet, so I just kinda passed out." He shrugged. "Woke up about 10 minutes ago." Gary, whose face had gone from rapt to utterly crestfallen, lowered his camera. "So, no shimmering lights?" "Shimmering lights?" Kevin repeated, then snapped his fingers. "Oh, yeah, those! Mr. Henderson's new motion sensor floodlights kept going off, but blinded me for a second. Super bright." "And the whooshing sound?" Dr. Fizzle interjected, clearly desperate to salvage his theory. "That was probably just a really strong gust of wind," Kevin explained, rubbing his neck. "Blew something off the gnome, too, I think. He was right there when I fell. And the scorched lawn?" Kevin looked around, a blush creeping up his neck. Yeah, my bad. I dropped a lit cigarette. Oops." The silence that followed was thick with the deflation of extraterrestrial hopes. Gary's toy Geiger counter lay abandoned at his feet. Dr. Fizzle's tinfoil hat seemed to wilt slightly. Just then Mrs. Gable, ever the meticulous gardener, bent down and plucked something from the tangled rose bush near where Kevin had fallen. "Oh, here it is," she exclaimed, holding up a tiny, pointed red ceramic hat. "Gerald's hat. Poor dear must have been traumatized by all the excitement." She carefully placed the hat back on the garden gnome's head. Brenda stared at the hat-wearing gnome, then at Kevin, then at Gary's mournful expression, and finally at Dr. Fizzle, who was now attempting to communicate with a squirrel using interpretive dance. This was her life. This was the news. She turned to Gary, whose camera was still off. "Gary, time for the wrap-up. Try to look less like your dreams have been crushed." Gary sighed dramatically, hoisting the camera to his shoulder. Brenda adopted her most neutral yet subtly exasperated on-camera demeanor. "Good evening, Forest Park," she began, speaking directly into the lens. "Brenda Bright, live from a cul-de-sac that, just hours ago, was the scene of an alleged extraterrestrial encounter. While eyewitness accounts varied wildly, from celestial light shows and telepathic communication to drones and frat party hallucinations, our investigation has concluded with a rather grounded explanation." She paused for effect, a tiny, almost imperceptible smirk playing on her lips. "The missing abductee, Kevin, has been found. His disappearance, along with the mysterious lights and sounds, appear to have been the result of a garden hose, a slight head bump, motion sensor floodlights, a rather strong gust of wind, and what Kevin himself admits was an accidental cigarette mishap." She gestured subtly toward the now hat-wearing gnome. "Even the case of the missing garden gnome hat has been solved. Found right here in Mrs. Gable's prize-winning rosebush. So while the cosmos may still hold many secrets, it seems that tonight the most extraordinary event in Forest Park was merely a case of clumsy gardening and unfortunate timing." Gary, ever the optimist, leaned into the shot just as Brenda was about to sign off. "But Brenda," he whispered, his eyes wide, "what about the psychic cats? Mrs. Gable has 7 of them, and the cosmic oneness." Brenda smoothly nudged him out of frame. "And that's our report from Forest Park. Back to you in the studio." As the live light on the camera clicked off, Brenda lowered the microphone, a weary but undeniable sense of amusement washing over her. Mrs. Gable, still beaming, was showing Kevin how to properly deadhead a rose, occasionally glancing up at the sky as if expecting a return visit from her polite energy beings. Chad had finally found his shoe, sticking out from under Mr. Henderson's car, and was now attempting to use it as a makeshift drum. Mr. Henderson was meticulously rewatering the scorched lawn, and Dr. Fizzle was now trying to teach the police officer the secret handshake of the Intergalactic Council. She sighed, a small smile finally breaking through her professional facade. "All right, Gary," she said, heading back to the car. "Let's go. I hear there's a new artisanal cheese at the farmer's market. Probably still less weird than this."
Tales from the Blue Line by Auditory Anthology is written and produced by me, Keith Conrad. Your narrator is Darren Marlar. Be sure to check out Darren's award-winning paranormal podcast, Weird Darkness, available at WeirdDarkness.com and your podcast app of choice. You can also support the show by subscribing to our new Substack at auditoryanthology.substack.com. By becoming a paid subscriber, you'll help keep the stories coming, and you'll also get every episode completely commercial-free, and you can vote on which story will feature in upcoming episodes.